Welcome to the Service to Syndication podcast, where we interview the biggest and most successful real estate entrepreneurs, investors, capital raisers in the world who have worn the uniform of this great country, those who provide services to our men and women in uniform, and other service-oriented professionals to provide you with the tool sets, the mindsets, and the skill sets to help you conquer your dreams and goals in real estate and to use this wealth creation vehicle so you can live a more successful, happy, and fulfilled life of generosity and prosperity. If what you desire is time, lifestyle, and financial freedom, you've come to the right place. We will bring to you the best real estate entrepreneurs who will give you the insights, the knowledge, experience, skills, so you can go out and crush it in whatever real estate asset class you desire. So grab a pencil and paper, sit back, and enjoy the ride on the Service to Syndication podcast. Hello, my servicemen and women and other service providers. Welcome to another episode of the Service to Syndication Real Estate Podcast. I am your host, Cedric Marlowe. I am a U.S. Navy vet. Here on the Service to Syndication Real Estate Podcast, we interview the most successful real estate entrepreneurs, investors, and capital raisers in the world, where most have donned the uniforms of our great country. We aim to provide the tool sets, the mindsets, and skill sets for you to achieve your personal and business goals while using real estate as a wealth creation vehicle to help you live a more successful, happy, and fun-filled life. I am super excited today because I have with me Mr. Brad Spelbring. He is a top-notch multifamily investor, mobile home investor, and developer. But before I properly introduce our exciting guest to you, I want to ask a favor of you. Please, if you get some value out of this interview, if you get some type of insight, mindset shift, if you learn a new skill, new information, receive inspiration or motivation to go out and take some progress in your life, please share this episode with some of your friends. Send it to someone you know who might be or could be interested in real estate. Share it on your social media, post it on your wall, or share it in your stories. Help us spread our message while you help others. And for all of you who shared this episode, I want to say thank you. Again, everyone, I have with me Mr. Brad Spelbring of Hartkey Land Company. Brad is a commercial real estate and infrastructure specialist who has negotiated and managed thousands of acres of land, hundreds of multifamily units, and multiple mobile home parks. Over his career, he's successfully managed more than $3.9 billion in projects across heavy industrial, commercial, oil and gas, and utility scale solar, including 3.25 gigawatts of installed solar. Brad also serves as an owner's representative on complex solar construction projects. He brings deep expertise in contract negotiation and construction safety, and is the author of several industry publications, including Bullseye Marketing and Tradesman to Contractor. All right, first off, Brad, welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So, Brad, before you became this very successful person I see in front of me, in about 2 to 3 minutes, please give our listeners a little bit of your backstory, like where you grew up, how was your upbringing, and what in your past shifted your mindset into becoming the person you are today.
So I grew up in a middle class family in a town of about 500 people. We lived a, blue collar life in the Midwest. I grew up in Southern Illinois. We hunt, we fished, we camped, we did those kind of things for fun. I was very athletic in high school. I played baseball and basketball and I ran cross country. So I was very athletic. That helped a lot. Helped me learn to build the discipline and to apply that discipline to my life. I also grew up in a farming community, so I've baled probably tons of hay back in the old days when you had to pick it up and throw them. And I've helped tons of farmers work and do different things on farms. And I've always had a job, always was hardworking, and just a good, wholesome Midwestern upbringing. So.
Awesome. So, yeah, you and I, we have that part in common, baling hay and throwing hay. A lot of people don't know about that. My one story that I have about that is this is actually my grandfather's brother. He came to get me and my best friend and was like, "Hey, I want you guys to bale some hay. I mean, throw some hay and load some hay up." And it was maybe a couple of days after it just rained. And so if anybody knows about that, makes that crap heavy as heck. Let me tell you, we made what I think it was, I don't know, around, I don't know, maybe $17. That's what I end up walking away with for that day. But the funniest story part of that story was he took us to the general store and he said, "Go ahead, get whatever you want." And so I'm like, okay, boom, I got all these snacks and stuff for lunch. We sat down, ate, and at the end of the day, he subtracted that freaking money from what I made that day. I was like, hell, if I would have known were gonna tell me get whatever you want and it was coming out of my pay, I wouldn't have got so much. So that's my little story about baling hay. And needless to say, that was my first and last time working with my grandfather's brother. But anyway, Brad, so you were in the military. Why did you join the military?
I was looking for a way out of the small town. I just wanted to go experience life. I didn't know if there was going to be another way at that point in my life. So it looked like a good opportunity for me. I actually joined the Navy to do one thing and wound up doing something completely different. But, I think there's a lot of that story in the Navy once you get in. And it was good for me also. Not that I wasn't disciplined before. I've always been an early riser. I still am today. I definitely believe, though, the Navy solidified their being an early riser. And I
Mhm.
also believe it solidified the fact I grew up, like I said, around farming my whole life. But on a farm, you don't quit when you're tired. You quit when you're done.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things the Navy was also. We didn't. It doesn't matter if you're having a bad day or whatever. You know, you quit when the job's done. It doesn't. You don't pass it off on the next shift or whatever. And it may this is just my opinion. It makes a huge difference, I believe, for young men and women to go into the military. In most branches are that way. I joke around with the guys in the Air Force. I say, "Man, you had a tough day. What'd you do? Get in at 9 and scoot it out around 3:30 and make sure you're home by 5." But we can do that because we served also. You know, and God loved the Air Force. We love them. They moved all of our stuff around for us all the time. But it was just funny. We teased them all the time. But you know this as a fact. It has instilled that discipline. It also brought in something into my life that I've used ever since too. And people are like, "What?" So when I joined the military, I didn't really care to read,
Hmm.
and I had a senior chief kind of mentor me until he became an LDO, limited duty officer. But it was very interesting. He read all the time, right? He always was carrying some kind of book. He always carried a Bible, but
Hmm.
he's always carrying another book to read. Like if we go eat lunch, whatever, if he didn't sit with us when he was a senior chief, because a lot of times they go eat with the chief's mess. But
Right.
when he would sit with us or whatever, when he was done, because you know how it was, you had a certain amount of time for lunch or whatever. He'd go to the chief's thing and he'd read, and then he'd always ask me, "What are you reading? What are you reading?" I was like, "What do you mean? What am I reading?" So he'd give me a book one day. I said, "I want you to read this. I want you to tell me about it." And it was actually a really good book. It was the magic of thinking big, I think. And I read that book, and he give me another book and give me another book and give me another book. And by the time, in a very short window of time, I'd read like 10 books. And he's like, "This is worth more than all the formal education you'll ever get." So to this day, I probably read 30 books a year.
Wow.
Yeah. I either listening to an audio book, I'm reading a
Mhm.
book. I'm not plugging a book, but I'll tell you right now, I'm reading a great book called The Dangerous Gentleman by Victor Marx. Um, I'm reading that, and right now I'm rereading the book of Isaiah. And I'm really not doing a formal Bible study with it.
Okay.
I just This is weird, and I don't know if you're a Christian or not, and if it
Yes, I
offends
am.
other people, then it's just too bad.
Exactly.
It is what it is. But I was doing something here a while back, and I wanted to start reading the Bible again, more like reading the actual chapters and verses versus doing a Bible study.
Okay.
So just something laid it on me to read Isaiah. So, I'm about 10 chapters deep in Isaiah. I've been taking some notes and looking things up. But yeah. So that's one thing. I think that's the biggest thing I took away from the military
Hmm.
was the desire to learn.
Yes.
And you probably know this. I believe everyone, if you have that desire to learn, at some point in your life, if you want to be successful, if you have the desire to learn, you can do it. So
Absolutely. I totally believe that, it's up to you. If you really want to change your lot in life, you can. And as I tell people all the time, you have a computer in your hand all the time. Just so happen, you're able to make a phone call on it, but use that thing to educate yourself. I mean, when I ride in my car, I call my car my mobile office because I'm always listening to a podcast, motivational, speech, or you name it, to just help out my mindset, train myself to become a better person than, the day before. Things like that. And I totally agree. It's definitely up to you. So, but
yeah.
yeah, Brad, so you negotiated the purchase and management of thousands of acres of land and multiple asset classes. What patterns have you seen that separate great deals from average ones?
So what separates a great deal is normally, so can I go into a little bit of a breakdown of how I look at a deal?
Let's do it.
Okay. So let's use an example of let's say you're going to buy $1 million mobile home park, right?
Hmm.
So most people look at the very basics and I do old school calculations of what the way I was taught. So they're a little bit different than what the modern calculations, especially for the cap rate. So what I look at, the things I look at, and it's always interesting because a lot of people don't really think about this. So if you're buying a property that the last owner paid 400,000 for,
Hmm.
and now you're paying 1 million for it, a lot of people don't, and I'm not saying everybody does this, but there are a lot of people because I've had people come to me saying, man, this is looks like a great deal, would you work the numbers with me? And one thing a lot of them miss is they're using the taxes off the $400,000 price, not the $1 million price that they're going to pay.
Right.
And they're also doing the insurance off that $400,000 price, not the $1 million price that they're going to pay, right? And the other thing is, and you've seen this a lot from 2019. It's slowed down a little bit in certain places, certain areas, but people are still buying on potential. And I don't buy on potential, I buy on cash flow. I mean, seriously, I know you're shaking your head, but you know this as well as I do. There are so many people that try to purchase properties on potential. It just there's a word for those people. It's called bankruptcy. No,
Yeah.
seriously, I know you chuckle, but it really is. So that is one of the things when I work with someone. I'm a licensed broker in North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia.
Okay.
I'm working on a few other states, but in other states, I do work as a consultant. I help people I do consultations. I don't represent them as a realtor. I do financial consultations for them. So, but again, a lot of people come to me with like, man, this is a great deal. And then when you go back through the deal, another thing they have to realize is if you're let's say you're buying $1 million property and right now what's that costing you in commercial? Probably 10,800 a month, probably for the payment, roughly, ballpark.
Okay.
I'm not exactly sure what money is going. I saw some deals the other day for 8.5% on a commercial deal. But let's just make it easy. Let's just say it's $10,000 a month.
All right.
But their cash flow might be 13,000. Well, they think they got a $3,000 a month spread. They don't know all the things that you have to, consider. You don't, the repairs, maintenance. Even if it's a newer building, you're still going to have these things. And then the one thing that I like to do is even on commercial is do a BRRRR method where you buy it, renovate it, rent it, refinance it. Those are my favorite deals inside and out. I love those deals. I love basically the value add the bad deals, the
Yeah.
value added deals.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's where so many people I believe in real estate go wrong. And then the other thing is everybody looks at the rosiest side of the deal, right? So the way I look at and work a deal, like and what the question you asked me was, I always negotiate a deal from worst case scenario. That's where I start. They're like,
Okay.
well, yeah, but this is properties making $2,000 a month. It's been making $2,000 a month for the past 2 years. Okay, but what was it making before that? it might only been making $1,400 a month. You jacked up the rent, and now you're dealing with some occupancy issues and everything. So, is it really? Are you really making the 2,000 a month now? As you average it out over the year, is your cap rate really as good if it doesn't rent all year or something like that? So, I always negotiate from worst case scenario. And a lot of people like, you're trying to lowball me. You're trying to do this. You're trying to do that. Well, people don't realize is for years, everyone negotiated from worst case scenarios, especially everyone really wealthy. You
Hmm.
know, the JP Gettys, the other, the people like that. I just read an article. This is why I'm bringing this up. The Michael Milkins. It wasn't real estate. He was negotiating bonds and bond prices,
Right.
but he always still, until he went crazy and broke the law, he always tried to negotiate from worst case scenario. There's thousands, BlackRock, BlackRock went crazy in 21, 22, and 23, paying way more than property prices and everything else. But before that, they always negotiated from worst case scenario. And that's how I like to negotiate. And again, it's not to beat them up or to, hopefully they lose money. That's not the plan at all. It's just I don't want to lose money, and I'm a generational investor, so
Okay.
it might really not do much for me over the next 10 years. But if when my sons take or my daughter takes it over, the next 20 years could be exceptional.
Yeah. I
And
mean, yeah, you get a broker provides you something, an OEM or whatever, and they're like, well, here, look at what the projections are going to be. The projections, they're selling this thing on projections. Like, well, from day one, when I take it over, it's going to be doing what it's currently doing. So why would I pay for hope for what could potentially happen? It won't necessarily happen. There is no guarantee that it's going to happen. And so I'm always sitting there, sometimes you have to educate brokers. Most of them already know, though. Most of them are pretty good guys and gals. You let them know, like, hey, if the person who's selling this want to come in, do all of this work and work for free to get me to that point, I'll pay for it that time. But until then, I'm going to pay for what it is now, what it is actually doing right now. And a lot of people don't get it, and there's a whole lot of pushback. But at that same time, if you don't want to, if we can't negotiate and do deals, then okay, I'll move on to the next opportunity because there's one always right around the corner.
yeah, and I'm gonna tell you this. You already know this. I tell everybody when I was really active in purchasing, I have gone to a very different model from purchasing. I found something that works better for me. It's a lot more profitable. It has been for me anyway.
Okay.
But when even in this what I'm doing now, when I do these, I normally if I'm active, I'm looking at 100 deals a week because some of as well as I do, there's some of man you can go through the deal in 45 seconds and say nope.
Yep.
So everybody goes, man, that's so many. Actually, in a good day, you can go through 50 deals if they're in front of you, and not even an 8 hour day. You can go through that in a few hours. Some aren't going to meet your cap rate, so they're all out, right? I don't go in and try to figure out how to make something meet my cap rate.
Hmm.
Too many people fall in love with a deal. I hate to sound like this. I know it sounds greedy and terrible, but the deal itself isn't going to make me or break me. Very few deals at our level are going to make us or break us.
Right.
We're not the BlackRocks, we're
Hmm.
not the Trumps, we're not the Gettys. We're not the guys dealing in a $200 million deal. What's the guy? Grant. We're not the Grant Cardones right now.
Right.
I hope everyone gets that wealthy. I mean, listen, man, my favorite Zig Ziglar is saying some people want to be reasonably wealthy and the rest of them some of you want to be unreasonably wealthy. I want to be unreasonably wealthy, right?
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
but that comes from working the deals. So many people say I looked at 3 deals. Well, 3 deals when today? They look at 3 deals over a month and they say, well, there's nothing out there. Well, are you really beating the bushes? Have
Right.
you made? I tell you, my favorite guys to work with are guys who do what do you call them? Wholesalers. But I like to work with wholesalers as their things getting ready to expire. I hate to say it
Exactly.
like that,
Yeah.
but I mean it is what it is, right? And then the other thing is, when we were buying a lot of properties on our own, we had a really interesting marketing method, and I'm going to share that with everyone so they
Yeah.
can use it. So what we found out is people in their 60s, 70s, and 80s, one thing that's very important to them is their mail, like getting a letter in the mail.
Oh, okay.
So what we were doing when we were really ramping up and doing a lot of properties and stuff, we were mailing about 500 formal signed letters every week. And here's what happens is, see, you already found the property, you already know what you're looking for, you
Mhm.
already know a lot of the details about the property. So when you go to them saying, "Hey, do you want to sell?" Right? That opens a door for you. That opens a huge door for you. It's better than about anything you can do, in my opinion, with people from 65 and up, because
Yeah.
and that's the what are they called, baby boomers.
Yeah. Baby boomers. Yep.
Yeah, so we're Gen Xers, but the boomers, man, that that's that's one thing. The boomers, it's big to them to get their mail and to check their mail and all that. So I'm going to give everybody a little thing, and don't get me wrong, it's not inexpensive to do, but it's worth the effort. So what we did was we went on Imprint. I don't know if I'm sure everyone's heard of that.
Oh yeah.
Go on Imprint and you order. They'll custom make you a card. So we were doing 500 a week. So I think we were ordering 2,000 cards a month. And then what we did was my wife and I would hand write every single card. And then I would sign every single card and put my business card in that envelope. And then what we did is we used a black envelope and we used a gold Sharpie to write on the outside of the envelope. And then we also put our return address on the back of it. And then this is how anal I am for details, man, because details are what makes you or breaks you in every business. It's not it's negotiating the great deal at the beginning and the details all the way through.
Right.
So what we did was we would put a drop of wax, and then like when how they used to stamp the old letters with the
Yes.
stamper,
Right.
that's what we did. So we put our crest on the back of there and we
Ah,
mail all those letters. And we were doing 500 a week. And I'm telling you, that's how we built what we built. And that's how we also drew in some investors too. Like people would get the letter from us and they would call us up and we very rarely, if ever, spoke about, we never sent out a letter asking for an investor.
okay.
That was just not something we did. So
Okay. Wow. That's a unique proposition right there. Now let me ask you this since you brought it up. Why would you put the return address on the back?
looks more formal and professional.
Got it.
Now, in my other business, which I still run, when I market to them, I put the address on the front because they're less formal. I'm going to business owners, which is a little less formal than going to a property owner.
Okay.
And again, I was taught this method by a really good friend and a fraternity brother of mine. And
Okay.
this method it's been crazily, crazy successful. So
Nice. I like it. So Brad, having managed over 3.9 billion in projects, how has your decision making evolved as deal size and complexity increased?
I make the decisions faster now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Expound on that a little bit because as the deals
So
get bigger, most people think it's going to take that much longer to uh, 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 do the due diligence or underwrite or fact check.
that you're right, but the decision to do all that is faster now
Okay.
because I know what I'm looking at, right? So as you get more experience, you are right. Some of that stuff does take longer, but the other thing is too, as you make more money, you can have other people do some of the due diligence. You can pay somebody to go and pull records. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
I do like I'm in the middle of two negotiations right now out of state.
Okay.
One is a lease property that I'm gonna use for a business of mine, and one is a purchase property I'm gonna use for a different business of mine. And
Mhm.
in both those deals, I am actually paying someone to go to the courthouse to get all the information I need, which, probably the greatest thing about making money is you buy back your time. It's not about the money and the things money will buy. And you
Mhm.
can't explain that to anyone. You really can't. I mean, and it's good, but people want a Ferrari, right? But Ferrari's
Right.
not my thing, right? You know, I mean, it's just not. I think they're beautiful cars.
Right.
I love them, but that's just not me. And I'm all for someone that if that's their motivation and their goals to own a Ferrari, or it's like a friend of mine, very wealthy. He owns a house in Tuscany. That's just not my thing either, man. And again, it's crazy because that house in Tuscany is less than a lot of the houses that people buy in the U.S. It's just you just have to take that leap because the thing is though, what is it though? Why wouldn't somebody who works a 9 to 5 have a house in Tuscany? It's not that they probably can't afford it.
Right. That's true.
They don't have the time to enjoy it.
Bingo. Bingo.
Right? Go ahead.
No, I was just going to second what you were saying. It allows you to buy back your time. And, for a while, I was the end all and be all of my business. And then I'm like, it started to stress me out. And so it's like, I got to start farming this stuff out. These, what I call them, non-value add tasks, the things that don't really add major value to the business. I start farming those out. And as I continue to grow, I see other places that I can start to farm out other things to other people. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where I got to where, do I really need to go meet the guy that's going to do the valve check at my mobile home park? That you have to check the water valve every depends on the county, but every year, every 2 years, so it has so it doesn't backflow your backflow valve.
Right.
You have to check that. Do I really need to drive 4 hours one way to go down and do that? No. I
Mm-hmm.
can have a property manager drive over there and make sure it gets done and write them a check for a few $100 for their time. And
Right.
don't get me wrong, I'm not negating their value of time because their time is valuable too. But for me, it wasn't worth me to drive 8 hours, spend my entire day in a car when I can be doing other things.
Right.
Anyway, kind of back to the deals. So one of the main things like I said, I try to do is if someone's really serious about this,
Mm-hmm.
excuse me, you're not going to find the best deals normally on Crexy,
No.
LubeNet, and there's some other ones out there. And you're probably not going to find great deals on. I will admit to this though, there are some good residential deals on Zillow and Realtor.com. But what I've found is, especially if you don't know the areas, I like to go find a commercial broker in that area, sit down with them, have a conversation, tell them what I want to do. I say, hey, do you know anything off market? Because normally off market deals, not always, but normally off market deals you have a lot more negotiation room.
Yes.
Especially if I'm looking for something specific. I'd rather buy something off market or lease something off market and kind of go from there. And it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. If you want to pay premium prices and you just want to check for 4 or 5% every month, if you're that kind of investor, that's great. Go to Crexy, go to LoopNet. The deals are there. Like buying I tell you, somebody called me the other day and wanted my opinion. And I normally don't give my opinion for free because, there's a thing called a BPO, broker's price opinion, and
Right.
we get paid for that. But anyway, I've known this person a while. He called me about a property. He kind of told me the long and short of it. I didn't really get into it. And I just basically told him the same thing I just said there. I was like, that's a great property. If your partner in this property only wants to make 4 or 5%, because what it is, it's a Haviland oil change place.
Yes.
So basically, the guy who owns it is a franchisee, and he wants to raise capital. So he wants to sell. Wants you to buy it from him, write him a check, then he's going to lease it back from you for 10 years. But the deal is, at the end of 10 years, do you want to run an oil change company?
Mm.
And that was the question I always ask him. That's why I normally there's like 5 things I stay away from, and that's one of them. And the ones I stay away from, everybody says they're great, they're the best, blah blah blah. Well, that's your opinion.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. Everybody
yeah,
has one.
right. And
Yeah.
then to give you a little background about it, I've owned 55 car washes and laundromats at one time.
Oh wow.
Um, that was not a bad business, but counties and cities and everyone is, the municipalities have realized that those are great businesses. So is the gas company, so is the electric company. Well, as all your utilities go up, and go up, your margins go down, go down, go down, go down. So now, unless you're in a low cost utility area, I mean, unless you're just gonna pound that thing out, I would just never. I wouldn't buy a car wash or a laundromat. And everybody
Wow.
says, "Oh, they're the greatest." Well,
Yeah.
they're
Right.
good for
Right
cash.
now. Right now. That's what all the gurus are saying on YouTube. Go buy a
Yeah,
car wash. Go buy laundromats. They're high margin businesses.
they're not.
Yeah. Look, I'll take it from somebody who's operated those businesses. So you say it's
Yeah,
not.
they're
Trust me, it's not.
yeah, and we have. So I tell you where the margin was for us, was in the vending machines.
Oh.
That's what we made. No, don't get me wrong. We made a lot of money on our car washes and laundromats, but over the years, the taxes kept going up, right?
Mhm.
Again, you can't control property taxes. You can't control your energy consumption for the most part. You can do some things to reduce costs. You can do solar batteries. You can do solar thermal, solar photovoltaic. You can do a lot of things to help reduce some of your costs. You can insulate stuff. There's all kinds of ways to do it, right? But for the most part, those are things you can't control. So as they climb and climb and climb, and you're still charging the same $1.25 for a wash, obviously it's going down, going down, going down. And then when you raise your rates, obviously all your customers get mad because
Yes,
they think you're a billionaire because you own car washes and laundromats because everybody's telling them that. And, you know, and I'll tell you another one everyone talks about, and it was great for a long time, and I would never do it again, is just regular self storage.
oh, let's talk about it because I'm right now under contract, on one. So let's talk about it.
Okay. So the biggest thing about self storage and why I wouldn't do it is every corner has a self storage thing on it. So when in '07, '08, and '09 and 2010, when the market collapsed and everybody was broke, they're not paying for the stuff they don't have in their house, man. They're not paying for it. And then it took a long time for those to become being relatively profitable. The only way I would do one now is if it was attached to like a mobile home park that I owned or an apartment complex that I owned. What would I buy a self-standing one? I would. This is just me. I'm a very conservative investor.
I got you.
Um,
Got you.
I'm very shrewd about what I buy.
Hmm.
I have my cap rate really high. Most 90% of the deals I look at don't even make my cap rate. So when you do things like that, you have to, that's just not there. And the thing about self storage, the way to make a lot of money in self storage, this is not an opinion, it's a fact I've used in the past, is you buy a self storage in a small town that has no security, nothing like that. Put up a fence all the way around it, repaint everything. Paint's
Oh yeah.
cheap. You can hire people to paint, repaint everything, redo the driveway, whatever you need to do. Put in a complete automated system where they have to put in a credit card to get in. That way they have to pay you to get their stuff out of there. That way you don't ever have to deal with them. They we
Yep.
we were at the I was at a trade show about a year ago, saw one of these systems in action, and you put your debit or credit card in, they give you a pin. They tell you which units are open. You don't even have to show up there. You have somebody manage it from 100 miles away or 500 miles away or whatever.
Yeah.
You don't even have to show up. But they're not the money makers they once were because they started taxing them differently in most places.
Okay.
Now you have to have electricity at most of them because they want the security. You have to have Wi-Fi. You have to have there's just a lot more expenses when I started in it. I mean, when I started in it, we built our first 20 units for less than $25,000,
Wow.
including the ground.
Yeah. Wow. Including the
Yeah,
ground. That's
yeah.
that's amazing. That's
Yeah, as we grew towards the end, we really saw the margins just kept going down and going down and going down. In the last few years, I think we were at about an eight, which 8% is not bad. I mean, 8% year over year. But
yeah.
when you're going from 17% year over year to 8%, that's a huge difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, you
That
know,
definitely is. Yeah, that's a huge cut into your margins. But Brett, so let me ask you this. Now, how do you think about like the highest and best use when a property could be, say, land, multifamily, or an alternative asset like mobile home parks?
I like the mobile home park asset side of it. I really do because you can go in basically for about $10,000 per site. You
Okay.
can set them up with water, sewer, the whole infrastructure, and you can normally rent those out depending on the area for about $300 a month. And you have nothing to do but mow grass. You have no maintenance. I mean, once you do it, there's really very minimal maintenance. And in our situation, we paid people to mow grass, and I had most of mine were in North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia.
Hmm.
So you had very minimal. You just had very minimal. Like I said, you had very minimal expenses. You didn't ever have to push snow, those kind of things. And I had them inland, so you didn't ever have to really worry about a hurricane.
Yep.
There's just a lot of things I look at that other people probably don't think about. I drew a map one time, and I tried to buy everything I could within that map, and that's just how it was. So.
Got it. Now, how do you evaluate whether, say, like a solar project actually creates long-term value versus just looking attractive on paper?
So solar is good for 30 years for the most part.
Hmm.
And the one thing about solar that I still like, and you don't need the tax credits or anything like that, but there's a thing you can sell called REC credits, renewable energy credits. So if you own the site, you can resell those normally. That's profitable. The other thing is too, is if you become a PPA, which is a power, oh man, I can't think, it's power something provider.
Producing, maybe?
I can't remember now, but anyway, you provide it's you sign a PPA, but you become basically like a small utility company,
Okay.
and which is very it takes a long time. Then you can actually own the system, the entire system, and sell the power back to any of the large companies and things of that nature. I this is my opinion. I believe the future is going to be selling the power to like data centers.
Big time.
Big
I see a lot of those now, like right outside of where a lot of data centers are being located. You'll see them just, land out there, and you'll see those solar panels and everything just planted literally right there, right outside of where there's going to be either one or several major data centers. So I,
right.
I I agree with you on that.
And the
Somebody had,
play for go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, no, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say somebody had the foresight to see that these data centers were going to need so much added energy, and so they just decided to start building those.
The other thing is too is and if people overlook this all the time is solar is a long-term play. It's a long-term investment. You're on a small system that you put on a house, you can probably pay it back within 5 to 7 years if everything goes really well by lowering your electric bill, you know, and just you can pay it back in 5 to 7 years. The other thing is and then I own a battery company now, so I'm going to plug a little bit about batteries.
Okay.
But so the big thing about solar is if you add a backup battery, I mean, you don't really, there might be 3 or 4 hours a day that you're actually taking power off the grid if you put in a battery,
Mm.
and most people like our company, you can buy a battery from us for about $600 down payment. And then you make payments to us for you actually lease the battery from us for like on average 8 to 10 years, and then that's the only payment you make. So it eliminates your electric bill. It brings your electric bill almost down to zero, and for another 150 to $175 a month. And it's really good systems. They work great. We also do commercial, and we do some utility scale also. But anyway, back to the solar. A lot of people that overlook solar are the people who own hotels and motels, because most people don't realize this. Most hotels and motels use almost all of their energy during the day. They're cleaning, doing laundry, all these things. Where at night, the guy who rents your room, Bob, who comes in there, he's going to have his TV on and mess with his heater, his AC. Very minimal use of electricity versus during the day when you're running washers and dryers again and you're running, everyone's cleaning and the doors are all open. It's 100 degrees outside, so it's trying to keep up. But yeah, so many people overlook that. I still believe that should be the biggest market that the solar industry capitalizes on is
Hmm.
that. The other one, and this is going to blow everybody's mind, are farms, agricultural. There are so many ways for farmers now to capitalize on, even without the federal government, capitalize on solar and use solar to increase their value of their land by creating a power plant and
Okay.
also reducing their energy cost. I mean, just it's a funny, it's like irrigation. Irrigation increases your land value so much, but if you put in solar to run the irrigation, now it's completely off the grid, quote unquote, off the grid. You put
Yeah.
in a battery backup, now you can run that thing 25 hour 20 you could run it 25 hours a day in the summer, so it's a big asset and it's a huge asset for farmers and hotel and motel owners, but you can't convince them because they see this huge price tag.
Right.
They just don't see the long-term benefit. So
I got you. As we start to wrap up this podcast, you're known for, say, contract and sales negotiation. What's one negotiation principle that has saved your investors the most money over time?
one principle I got to think here. I'd say probably the best one is what I said earlier. We buy on value. We don't buy on on what
Project.
it can do. Yeah,
Yep.
we don't buy on projections. We don't buy on pro forma. We don't buy pie in the sky. We buy on value. And no, seriously, I know you just chuckled again, but buying on value is probably the most important thing anyone can do. So many times people, and I'm not knocking people because I love the entrepreneurial spirit in this country. I wish there were more people who had it. But one thing about being an entrepreneur in America is, a lot of businesses fail.
Yes.
And and everybody uses the one of the three excuses. Number one, I didn't have enough funding, right? I didn't have the right product, which that could be. I don't really know enough about all the other products out there. And my third and a favorite is I just didn't have enough knowledge. Well, that's your fault.
Yes.
And the funding thing is your fault too. If you're going into something and everybody's telling you it's probably not going to work or there's too many of them or whatever, then I would look at something else. Um, so that's probably the other thing. And the other thing that we do again is we fill niches. The three businesses I currently own, we don't do we fill niches. We mow. We don't mow like landscape mowing. We mow like in between runways at airports. We
Okay.
mow at solar sites, these big, huge solar sites. And that's what we want to be known for. We do O and M. And the other thing that we do is we paint ships. We do industrial coatings. No, you mean you ever ask somebody, what do you want to be if people wants to be a tradesman? I mean, I'm sure you know people who want to be tradesmen. They want to be electricians. They want to be
Right.
plumbers.
Yes.
They want to do, no one ever says, oh, I want to be a painter,
No.
right? That's the thing where we found a huge gap in the service industry was,
Okay.
and we don't do residential. All we do is industrial coatings. We don't do anything else.
Gotcha.
And then the other thing that we have found that's been very, very successful for us is we do a lot of stuff on military installations with three companies. And being a service disabled veteran owned business helps us
Yeah.
in all that. But again, we that's the things we go after. Um,
Okay.
Again, though, I do believe niches are the most important thing. If you're going to invest in whatever you're buying to invest in, buying into a niche is the most important thing.
Okay. So you said mowing, painting, and what's the third one?
So we do construction on military installations, but we do like all the things nobody wants to do. If somebody calls us and say they want us to replace 600 doors, well, we go and replace 600 doors, right? Just stuff that other people don't want to do. Hey, we got a broken window in on an army base in New Jersey. Can you go replace these windows? We want the whole windows replaced in this one house now because this window's broken. It's cheaper for us to replace all the windows they needed anyway. So we go do stuff like that. And just little
Nice.
things, we have found that has been a huge niche for us. And then the other thing that we could do that I got started in one of my other businesses, which is carried over to this, is medium voltage electrical. We don't go do the power lines and we don't go do we're not the guy to call if you will need a receptacle in your house, right? But if you need to get from the transformer or the substation to a solar field, we're the people to call. We'll do all the terminations, we'll dig, we'll trench, we'll do everything. Excuse me. But that's what else we do. I mean, and they're all niche, right? I mean,
Yeah.
they're very niche. People laugh at me sometimes. They're like, how in the world do you make a business out of that? You just
Well,
grind away.
it's that saying, the riches are in the niches.
Right, exactly.
Yep.
And I still believe that too. I know you probably teach the same thing in service to syndication is like mobile home parks. We found a niche there.
Mhm.
And then one more thing I like to kind of touch on, and I know we are probably running out of time, is a thing that helped me a ton once I learned how to do it. So instead of buying a mobile home park, if you can reach out to the owner and set up a MLO, which stands for a master lease option,
Okay.
and you a lot of times you have to teach the owner what these are. But once I learned to use a master lease option, let me give you a little how I did a deal in South Carolina. I wound up buying a 600 unit. Well, actually, I didn't purchase it. I wound up leasing a 600 unit mobile home park for less than $30,000 out of pocket. We went
Wow.
to the owner who was struggling. They were going to lose it. So to
Hmm.
keep them from losing it, we said, listen, we'll help you set up a master lease option. We went through because people don't realize like most of the buildings in New York City are on master lease options. Somebody owns the land, somebody owns the building, and then somebody else manages the building, runs the building. I mean, some of the most famous are the Empire State Building. It's on a master lease option. Radio City Music Hall. It's on a master lease option. There's just a bunch of them in all over New York. It's very common in the bigger cities. But anyway, so we started using that with mobile home parks, and we would buy. Let's say we got the park for 30,000. We'd bring in finance partners and other people in, and then we would and we worked a lot with Clayton Homes. We'd bring in Clayton Homes. We'd put new mobile homes in. We would clean up the place. We'd mow it. We'd put in new fencing. We would do all these things, and normally less than a couple $100,000, which seems like a lot of money. But when you're talking about controlling a $5 or $6 million asset, is what you're looking at in the end. A couple $100,000 is even $80,000 in one scenario on a 300 unit park we bought. We only invested around 80,000 of our own money in that park, and we tripled the value in a 5-year window and sold it to a private equity. But the whole thing was, by using the master lease option on that one, we were able to buy that one for $15,000 out of pocket.
Nice.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, the master lease option is the way to go. It is so much. Obviously, you're not going to get a homeowner to give you a master lease option, but on these bigger deals, I use them all the time. I love the master lease option. It just has a lot of really good advantages to it. There's some disadvantages to it too, but because if you don't meet some criteria within the lease,
correct,
you could lose the option and lose your investment completely. But if you do meet all the criteria, it can be very, very successful, especially something that's run down, needs work, and they're not making money on it.
Got it. Well, Brad, it has been a blast having you as our guest today. And as we close out, please tell our listeners where we can learn more about you, get in touch with you, and learn about all the fabulous things you have going on right now.
So our current website is allhhc.com. We'd love for you to visit that. If anybody hears this and would like to connect with me and send me a connection or on LinkedIn, I'd be more than glad to connect with you. And I'd be glad to answer questions for anyone if they want to reach out to me. And then you can also reach me at brad@allhhc.com. That's another good place to reach me. And then my last place to reach me is the commercial cowboy NC at Gmail. You can always send me an email there also. But yeah, any of those places, I'm more than glad to reach out. I don't give out my number as much as I used to, my phone number. I hope no one's offended by that, but I'd rather get an email first and decide how we're going to proceed than do a phone call. So.
Absolutely. I understand. And most people will understand that as well. Awesome, Brad. Again, I want to thank you for your time today and all the wisdom you have provided to my listeners. It's greatly appreciated. And I want to thank you, our fans, for tuning in to the Service to Syndication Real Estate Podcast, where we want to add value to you and your investing business. Please tune in to our next episode where we will interview another fantastic investing professional. See you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Service to Syndication podcast. We want you to know that we love and appreciate your support, and we are grateful about being a part of your journey to becoming a successful real estate entrepreneur. Please share this episode with a friend who you think will get a lot out of what you just heard. Send it to someone who you know is interested in real estate and dreams of having it all and being the best they can be in all areas of life. And if this was really valuable, share it on your social media stories and timelines. Thank you for watching and listening. Now go be great.